Hello and welcome to Tag Inspector. Today, I want to walk through some of the base functionality within the platform, and give you a better sense of what Tag Inspector can do and some of the areas in which it can help your organization. So, Tag Inspector is a tag governance platform. It helps organizations across the globe with tag auditing, monitoring, understanding what platforms are collecting what information, setting what cookies, and how are they performing. So, within Tag Inspector, we have three separate modules which can help with some various different use cases. Where we'll start is with our scanner. So within the Tag Inspector Scan module, this works in just a traditional way in which our scanner will go through, load each page of a website within a virtual browser, and executes the various different tags that are embedded in loading within each of those pages. So when that scan runs, each page is loaded within that browser, each of those tags executes, and we then collect information about the tag behavior. So what tags are loading, what information is being passed, performance information, cookies that are set, all of that. And all of that information goes through our library, the Tag Inspector backend library, where we have around 2,500 unique platforms that are classified. So what this allows us to do is display to the user exactly what platforms are loading, how each is being introduced on the page, as you can see here within the hierarchy visual, along with those more granular specifics. So what we're looking at here is the overview page of a scan report. The first thing you'll notice here are a number of different settings. This just summarizes any settings that were applied to give you a sense of what's possible when running these scans. You do have the ability to run scans from various different origins. So a few different locations within the US, Virginia, as well as California, which could be helpful for doing any kind of testing or auditing for CCPA types of considerations. You can also run these scans from a number of locations within Europe, as well as the Asian Pacific region. Another setting to point out here is the ability to simulate cookie and tracking consents. You have the ability to stipulate when that scan runs. If you want that scan to run as if it is a user that has consented to tracking or a user that has not consented to tracking, so that you can see that subsequent tag behavior. So the data collected, the cookies that are being set, if you're trying to audit and test again for compliance purposes. Some of the other settings that you can just read on here, abilities to stipulate individual pages or site sections that you're wanting scans to run on. We can simulate a few different browser types as well as user agents, and then just more controls for what pages should be scanned and how that should run. So on the overview, the main thing to point out from the reporting standpoint, as I mentioned, our tag hierarchy, so seeing how tags are being introduced. Anything that's on this first level is loading from the page source. Anything on these subsequent levels is loading through or piggybacking off of whatever it's connected to. This visual can be really powerful just to help you understand what's happening on my website, what piggybacking behavior might be happening, what's being injected that you maybe aren't aware of. We can then also look at details, and the details are going to give you some more granular specifics of the tags that are executing. So it will list all of the unique platforms that were found to be loaded. It will show the total number of unique pages on which each is loading on out of the total number of pages that were scanned. And then we'll give you specifics about how this tag loaded, so the hierarchy for that specific platform. We do parse out properties and account IDs for analytics and many of the major media platforms. For Google Analytics specifically, we'll highlight any errors around duplicate page views or multiple hits. We parse out all of the parameters that are being passed, so you can see what are the data points that are being collected when that scan is being run. So we can see for each parameter, unique values, total number of them. We can click in to see what those values are, as well as the pages on which each parameter is set out of the total number of pages that were scanned. We'll show you pages containing that tag, as well as pages missing that tag. And one thing unique to Tag Inspector is that we do associate cookies that are being set back to the requests and the tags that are responsible for placing those cookies. So that information can also be found here within the details, showing you exactly what are the cookies that were being set by that particular platform. Stepping through the reporting a little bit further, there is some pages reporting. So instead of looking at everything from the tag-centric perspective, we can also look at it by individual page URL. So we can click on an individual page, we'll see some page information, some statistics around performance, tags that were loaded on that page, and then just to break down that waterfall of all of the unique requests that were sent along with that timing information. The last thing to point out here within these scan reports is that cookies reporting. So any cookie that's set when a scan is ran is displayed here within the cookies reporting, so you can see the cookie name, the tag that's responsible for setting it, where we are able to associate that with a platform, the host name, so the domain on which that cookie was set, the method, and then some additional details and attributes that are associated with that cookie. All of this information, along with some additional granularity such as duration, is available to be exported from the platform, as well as available via the Tag Inspector API. We do have the ability, we have a number of different partners that actually leverage the Tag Inspector API in order to dynamically update their disclosures and notices on the websites. So that is something that is possible from the platform as well. So those are the base scan reports, high-level information. What platforms are loading, where are they, how are they being introduced, what information are they collecting generally, and then also what are the cookies that each one is setting. Super helpful here for the scan reports, individual websites seeing that behavior. Now, moving beyond the initial scan reports, we also have a governance module within Tag Inspector. So what the governance module does is it builds and aggregates results across scans that are ran in order to give you a specific look at the information collected and the tags that are executing through the lens of privacy and compliance. So what we do here is you can upload websites into the governance module. This can be done just by adding individual websites, or we can upload via a CSV list. And once websites are uploaded here within the governance module, our system will automatically run scans across each of those various different domains. Now, unique here, we mentioned it before within the scanning module, we have that ability to simulate each of the various different consent conditions that a user could be applying on each of the websites. That process is automatically handled within the governance platform. So all you do is upload the domain. Our system will go to that website, identify the consent options available to the user, and then run scans automatically across each of those various different conditions. So what that allows you to do here is view those results just across any consent condition that is available. But then also, it makes it very simple for ongoing monitoring and always having a good view of what tags are loading for users that are consenting, what tags are loading for users that are not consenting across each of the websites. Now, to make that even easier, we summarize all of that information from that tag perspective within the summary here in the governance module. So if you have 100 websites, if you have 1,000 websites, uploading all of those here within this module gives you that high-level look at what are the platforms loading across my entire ecosystem. You have the ability here to define individual groups and apply those to websites. So if you have multiple countries and you want to just filter and see what are the tags that are loading for users are on my UK websites or on my US websites. We can add those groups and then apply those here within this reporting. You also have the ability to filter here, again, based upon those consent conditions. So if I want to see what are the tags that are loading when consent has been given versus when it has not been given, I can apply that filter and then see those results here within the summary. Now, for each of these tags, we have sites containing, sites missing. For any of these websites, we can click in and see some further specifics. So for DoubleClick, what are those sites on which it is loading? What are the ways in which it is loading on each of those domains? And then what is the percentage of pages that that tag is executing across those individual websites? Further clicking in here to the site domains is going to bring up the specific scan that was ran on that individual website. Going back to our summary, one last thing to point out here is that you can also access information specific to each of the platforms. So for any tag that was found to be loading, we can see information and we can organize some of our assessments and just internal documentation about each of these platforms here within the module itself for very easy access. The last thing to point out here within the governance module are the policies. So what the policies allow you to do is define for each of those different consent conditions, what are our list of allowed tags? So what are the platforms that are allowed to be loading for a given region, for a given consent condition? And then what are those that are not allowed to be loading? Defining allowed tags or disapproving tags is as easy as clicking a button here. And then as soon as you update that within the summary, those policies are reflected within our reporting. So we can have just one central look. Again, I could filter this for what unapproved activity is happening for my websites in the UK for users that are not consenting. I can immediately just identify what are the tags that are violating those policies and what websites, how many websites, what websites are those on to be able to quickly then get to those remediation steps. So that's the functionality here within the governance module. It's built upon and it aggregates information from those scan reports and it provides a lens to look through at the tag behavior information on a website for purposes of privacy and compliance. Now, the last portion and the last module that you'll see within Tag Inspector is Tag Inspector Real-Time. Now, Real-Time works differently from the scanner in that it is a tag-based solution. So it does require a tag to be deployed on a website, but what that allows you to do and allows us to do is evaluate what tags are loading, the data being passed in that live environment at a massive scale across all conditions that users are accessing the website. And you don't need to write JavaScript or you don't need to define any of those user journeys. The users are taking care of that for you. So what this reporting allows, and within the reporting here, first thing that we'll see is a dashboard, which is summarizing the status of different validations that we have applied. Now, the standard-based reporting within real-time, similar to the scans, is going to give us information about the tags that are loading. So what tags are loading, some latency information, total number of requests that are being evaluated. We can look at information for any page for which the real-time tag is loading and collecting that tag behavior. And then for any of those URLs, as you can see here, we're collecting that information of what tags and all of that tag data across each of those page load instances. So if I want to see what tags are executing, what data is being collected for a user from the US, it's using a Chrome browser earlier today, I can go in and view all of that information for what tags loaded, start time, end time of each of the requests, the full requests that were being sent, and then also I have access to those parameters that are being passed And we do parse that out so you can see the individual information and the data that's being collected. Now, where this becomes really powerful is in relation to the validation rules. So the validation rules within real-time allow you to define what is your expected behavior for very granular data collection, as well as for any behavior you're expecting within the data object on a page, so a data layer or a UTag data object. Those types of things that are organizing information on a page can also validate any of those JavaScript objects. So for any of those validations that have run, we can see the status within the page load, if it passed or it failed. If it does fail, we will provide further specifics and granularity information to help you remediate those issues. Those validation rules are the real power here within real time. So again, define expected behavior and then be able to have our system automatically test and validate that yes, validation, whatever you have configured is working as expected, or no, it is not. The status of each of those rules is aggregated here within the validation rules reporting, where we can see all of the rules that are configured, as well as the total number of failed validations, total number of successful validations. Now, let's kind of zoom in here a little bit on the logic that's available to us. So within each of these validation rules, I can test something as high level as Google Analytics should be loading across every single page. Or I can get much more granular. Some of the options available here around specific parameters that should be being set, values that should be passed. We can write regex to identify multiple different parameters or values that are passed within that request, as well as latency limits to test performance of tags and how quickly they're loading on web pages. I can also test, as mentioned before, any JavaScript variable. So if I wanted to test a data layer or a specific parameter or specific event being pushed to a data layer, I could do that. And I can specify a number of different options for when a validation should be running. All pages, an individual URL, when a user clicks on a specific button or element on a page. And when I define these rules, those are then again saved here within the rules area, and those validations run whenever that condition is met for the validation to execute. So this provides fully automated, comprehensive testing of your data collection requirements across your entire web ecosystem. Now, we can also then associate alerts with those different validation rules to allow you to be alerted in real time. Within 20 minutes of something breaking in your architecture, you can receive an alert that will notify you what's failing, to what extent, and then get you back into the interface here where, again, you can dig into those individual page load instances and have all the context necessary to troubleshoot and diagnose those failures. The last thing to mention here within the Tag Inspector real-time module is some automated validations and automated testing around PII data that's being passed and collected. So another benefit of that tag-based approach is that it allows, again, for that monitoring within the live environment. This opens up that opportunity for automated monitoring of clear text PII being passed by any request leaving your page or any tag that is implemented on those pages. So we can see here within the PII reporting a list of any tag that is found to be executing, as well as any unknown tag, just random requests. And we're automatically looking for 6 different categories of PII. You have the ability to define additional characteristics of data and your own custom PII categories, but this allows for just comprehensive, again, monitoring and identification of things like email potentially being passed to an unauthorized platform such as analytics. So that is Tag Inspector. three different modules: the scanner, real-time, and governance, providing you comprehensive functionality to address the three core pillars of data governance, making sure that you have complete data, compliant data, and that you're collecting that in the most efficient way possible.